Welcome into the DGD Podcast. As always, Robert Reynolds. That's my man over there. And there's a huge matchup. You would not believe it. Georgia is in Austin right now, and they're about to take on the Texas Longhorns. Boy, oh boy. Most important game of the season?
Oh, it's definitely the biggest game of the season. I mean, if you think about all the different things that play into it, the fact that we've never played in Austin before, I mean, that's almost impossible to believe, right? With two programs as historically relevant as these two teams are, that we've never played there before. Big matchup. A lot on the line. I know a lot of people seem to think with 12 teams making the playoffs that the games don't matter as much as they used to, but this one matters, Robert. This one really does matter.
No, without a doubt. Number 5 versus number 1. Already lost to Alabama. I don't think we can afford to lose again. That's for sure.
No. Well, I don't want to test it. How about that? Maybe we can't afford to lose again, but I don't want to.
Yeah, I'm not trying that. I'm not trying that. The narratives across this game has been wild too. I mean, Georgia's being absolutely just shunned by everybody, it seems like, this week. What are your thoughts on that whole situation? I mean, it's weird, ain't it? We're in rare air at this point.
Well, it depends on who you listen to, right? Because you have, I want to say, wasn't it Josh Pate that came out and said that Georgia is the best team in college football, and no matter what happens this week, in this game, Texas would have to go on a run where they're a dominant team for a couple of years. Was his point is that Georgia has ascended to a place where they are the standard, right? Like Alabama was the standard for years and years. And I believe for the most part, people still believe Alabama's up there, but Georgia has ascended to that level. Now, if you go back a couple of years when Georgia was on the ascension, if you could think back, if you could allow yourself to kind of erase all of the national championships that we've won, there was a point in time where you hoped you matched up, right? You hoped that you had an opportunity to win. You would watch all of the talking heads on all the different television shows, and they're like, Georgia's going to get killed. Georgia doesn't match up. Georgia's not good enough. Georgia's blah, blah, blah. Those days are gone. And thankfully for us, we're at a point now where every single game that we go into, we could obviously lose. We're not humans. But the point is that we're not at a disadvantage against anybody. Yes, Texas is a hell of a football team, Robert, and I think you know that, and I think you agree with that. But Georgia's not nothing. Like, we have every bit the ability to walk in and win this football game. So, yeah, that's where I'm at.
We are definitely not 2024 Florida State. Just going to let that be known. For those watching, we started a little bit late. Part of me just wanted to watch Duke beat Florida State, just letting that be known. So, being selfish, but I hope y'all can understand.
Hey, I raced home from a high school game to do this, so let's go.
Yeah, no doubt. Let's do this, man. The whole talk has been Texas's offense, right? And Quinn Ewers, and listen, I've heard a lot of people trying to shit talk Texas and this and that, and listen, there's two sides to the story, right? When you look at Texas, I've heard the side of they haven't played nobody yet, but at the same time, I've also heard, well, they may not have played anybody. However, you sit there and you beat the absolute bejesus out of people. You're doing what you're supposed to do, right? I don't know the exact numbers, but the teams that they've played, I think they've given up 6 points per game, right? That's, if you look at it, that's somewhat on par with what we were doing in 2021. And honestly, the teams that they had played in regards to passing offense are horrible. Like, I don't think anyone's even, I think maybe 60th or something like that was the highest one. Maybe ULM, I think it was. But at the same time, in the same breath, I have to look at what we did in 2021 and the offensive statistics that we played. They were not good either, right? They were not good either. So it's just interesting to see this because I feel like the narrative is that Texas is just an unstoppable juggernaut. Georgia is, like you said, fully capable to go into Austin and win. It's just a matter of can you get it done. Would you agree?
100%. I agree with you. And to your point about the schedule is you can only play who is on your schedule, right? You can only play the actual schedule. So if you remember back to last year, everybody knew from day one that Michigan had a one-game schedule. 100%, without question, Michigan had a one-game schedule. Now, keep in mind, Michigan also
did have Penn State.
Fuck Penn State. Penn State's never tough for anybody. I mean, Penn State is they are the paper tiger every year. Like I get so sick and tired of hear. You know what paper tiger is? Did that one just go? Paper? Yeah, they're just they're. I have such a disdain for Penn State. Every year, you got to listen about how good fucking Penn State is, and then they don't do shit. So. Sorry. Anyway, it just totally got me off. Anyway,
no, you're not.
Michigan had a one-game schedule, but the fact of the matter is, you play who's in front of you, and anybody that's ever played any sport ever, for a coach that's worth a shit, will tell you that you can only win one game every Saturday or Friday or whenever you're playing, and you just play whoever's across from you. The thing is, the mark of a good team, and you mentioned this briefly. The mark of a good team is that regardless of who your opponent is, you play at your best and you're operating at your best. You're executing at your best. And to credit Texas, every game out they have played, at a high level. Now, last week, they entered for the first time all year, they introduced what's the word? I can't think of the word I'm looking for. Oh, drama. That's not the word I was looking for, but drama with Quinn Ewers coming back after Arch Manning had filled in and played well. He comes back and doesn't play well, even though they beat the ever-living snot out of Oklahoma.
Yeah.
And the game was never in doubt, but Quinn didn't play well. So now in the pressers leading up to this,
it's a manufactured storyline of sorts.
Correct. Thank you very much. They've got this new level of again, I'm looking for the word. No, it's like something you have to think about that you shouldn't have to think. A distraction. A freaking distraction. Thank you. They have a distraction that they didn't require, that they didn't need or didn't have before. One of the people asked Sarkisian this week in one of the press conferences, how bad does Ewers have to play for you to pull him? He's like, I'm not answering that question.
Oh yeah, he was like, yeah, that's a dumb question. Moving on.
Yeah,
I mean, to be fair, he is 100% right to say that too. Let's be honest.
I mean, what are you supposed to say? Like,
I mean, that just shows you the Manning infatuation and the. Arch is a good quarterback. I'm not sitting here and saying he's not, but you knew whoever he went to was going to get that type of stuff. Like you knew it was coming.
Yeah, part of me, like very small part of me, but part of me is like maybe we dodged a bullet not getting him.
Yeah, very small. I could see it. I got you. Jeff in the building saying the fact that Keon isn't here making comments off camera is hurting me. Yeah, Keon's on his way to Austin, if not there already. So he's going to be there. He's going to be live in the 215, if you know what I mean. So can't be mad about that. The duty calls, he's got to go. Yeah, so, but no, I think when you look at this game though too, man, like you look at Texas. You got, and honestly, you look at their defense too. Their defense, everybody looks at Quinn, everybody looks at Isaiah Bond and Arch and this and that, but that defense is legit. Like it's legit. It's legit.
Yeah, that's one of those things where when you watch them play, you take it for granted, and I think where you become susceptible to. Well, they haven't played anybody good is when you watch their defense. It's like their defense has played extremely well, and then that they haven't played anybody good starts to creep into your mind, and it affects the way that you perceive that defense. So I'll be interested to see exactly what I think if we are looking at Georgia, I think we can all agree that their strength, they have a very talented offense, right?
Yes.
Our defense has caused us to throw shit and break stuff from time to time because we haven't been playing at a high level on defense every time for the first time. So I will be interested to see how Texas responds when they have a really quality offense on the other side, on the defense. But I mean, I know we're not like really there yet, but I think the two offenses are the story of this game. Like if they're both firing at all cylinders, like that worries me. I think Georgia actually needs Texas's offense not to have their best game. And I hate to say that because that sounds like a weak ass answer, right? And that sounds like I'm scared, and I'm not scared. I'm just saying I know our defense isn't what it used to be, and I know that Texas offense can be really, really dangerous.
I mean, you look at Sark, man. He's one of the best offensive minds in college football. Yeah. So by default, you just kind of know. And it also, not to get back on it too much, but you look at what happened at Mississippi State. There's a legit reason for concern for some folks. You know what I mean?
Mm-hmm. And I think if you're talking about just from a matching wits standpoint, and granted they're not going against each other, but if you're talking about play calling, Bobo versus Sarkisian, if you say that if anybody tries to say that Bobo has that advantage, you're stupid. Like you don't know ball. Sarkisian is one of the best play callers in all of football, and that advantage goes there. But I believe if an offensive adjustment has to be made, Texas has an advantage. But I also believe if there's a defensive adjustment that has to be made during the game, I believe that Georgia's defensive coaches are better than Texas's defensive coaches. And I would give the edge there. So strength on strength, I think those are going to go head to head. It's just really hard to bet against that defensive staff at Georgia. And I know the Alabama game, the first half of that Alabama game scares the shit out of a lot of people. But look at those adjustments that they were able to make in game, which doesn't happen all the time. And the way that defense responded in the second half. And I understand we gave up some plays last week, but I have more faith in that defensive staff at Georgia than I do the defensive staff at Texas, if that makes any sense. So
it does. I get where you're coming from.
All I'm trying to say is that the fact that Sarkisian might be the better play caller isn't going to be as relevant as normal because Bobo isn't going against the greatest defensive staff in the country. Is my point? Does that? I know I said a lot.
I know. No. It makes sense. I know what you mean. Mike D here brings up a good point. Bringing up saying Texas and Georgia first quarter points are even the last two games, except for Texas had 2 first quarter turnovers. That's a good point.
Turnovers are huge in every game. I'll take some. If we're giving them away, I'll take some turnovers.
No, 100%. Florida State's giving them away too.
I just think it's very, and I know this is so elementary, but it's just really important for Georgia to start well. And we haven't started well really all year long. What was it last week? Did we score on our first drive last week?
2 weeks ago.
Yeah. No, that was nice. We're going to definitely need to do that.
No. It was Mississippi State.
Yeah, because it looked like we were off to the races, and then it just.
No, it was Auburn. That's right. It was Auburn. Yeah, it was Auburn.
Okay. So, yeah, that's where I'm at. Georgia's got to start fast. Georgia's got to play clean. I trust Georgia's defense to make the proper adjustments. And I'm just hoping that Texas is just not like – I mean, dude, that first half Alabama, that offense for Alabama that first half was just – I mean – I have not seen an offense that hot to start a football game.
Dude, they came out scalding hot.
I mean, that was ridiculous, dude. I don't think the 85 Bears could have stopped that fucking team. That's incredible. Dude, do you know how fast that was? Like I was saying in our group chat, that game, I was like, the last time I felt this ambushed was when Georgia went to South Carolina, and that game was a night game. It was on television. Georgia was like number 5 in the country or whatever. We went into Williams-Brice Stadium and just got mollywopped. I'm talking
You
about
could say the same for 2018 LSU too. That shit was rough.
Yeah, I don't want to sit through that again.
Well, keep in mind. Well, yeah. So Mike did mention that that weird pass deflection pick happened.
Oh, that's correct. Yeah.
So, no, I look at it this right here, man. I want this narrative to get settled and in a good way for Georgia. Kirby Smart has to win a big game on the road, and if you look at it, he's not done well in big time matchups on the road. If you look at it, I mean, do you have anything to say on that one, Dan, or no?
All right, so can I preface this comment by saying I love Kirby Smart. I think he's the greatest coach to ever coach football at University of Georgia. Okay, is everybody clear on that? Okay, he's not Nick Saban. Nick Saban didn't really have these holes in his resume. Kirby Smart has holes in his resume. He can't beat Alabama for some damn reason, like we're winning a lot. And Kirby Smart's the greatest coach to ever coach at Georgia. I'm just saying there are holes and there are some concerns. And I think it's very important that he goes into Texas and wins this football game. I do. I really do. I think that there are people who are willing to poke even more holes in that Kirby Smart story. And I would like some of those to go away, some of those reasons to go away, some of those narratives to go away. Like, you keep saying that word narrative. I really do need some of them to go away. And I think winning this game would go a long way. Listen, again, for the third time, Kirby Smart is the greatest coach to ever coach at Georgia, but losing to Alabama really hurt.
Did you know that Kirby Smart's the best coach to ever coach at Georgia?
Losing to Alabama hurt. That hurt.
I mean, unfortunately, it always will. That stigma losing to Saban so many times. Georgia fans got to understand that's going to never change. That people are going to run with that shit for the.
Yeah, but now you're losing to Kalen DeBoer. Come on, bro. You had the more talented team too.
I mean, you're not necessarily wrong. So it's just something you got to get past. But I do want to talk about this though. Offense. Carson Beck I felt like Carson Beck has been dialed in these past couple of weeks. I know you had the one boneheaded interception at the goal line. That the pass deflection that was a pick was something that I thought was kind of just happens. You know what I'm saying? Well, other than that though, I feel like he's been dialed in. Are you on the same page on that?
Well, here's the question. So you asked me a lot of questions. Let me ask you a question. Do you think Carson Beck plays well in big games?
Not complete, but yes.
I think he played an amazing second half at Alabama, and I thought he played a really bad half at Alabama.
Yeah, but it wasn't a good 4 quarters. It was a good 2 half. It was a good half. It wasn't a good 4 quarters.
And he played like shit against Alabama last year.
Yeah.
So, again, like there's just some narratives that have to be thrown away. Listen, man, I think Carson Beck's a hell of a quarterback.
Oh, 100%. Yeah. I mean, I know he's not no Stetson Bennett, right? But I'm just saying, I think he gives us the best opportunity to go out and win Saturday.
Well, here's the thing.
I think you have to believe that.
I think the problem with Carson Beck, air quotes problem, right? I think the thing that really hurts him is how much pressure there is on the quarterback at the University of Georgia. It doesn't matter what their name is, okay? The quarterback is the most paid attention to position on any team. You are arguably the biggest brand in college football. You're replacing a guy who just won back-to-back national championships. You coasted through last year, and in many people's eyes, you cost Georgia a chance at a national championship last year, right? I'm not saying it's true. I'm just saying that narrative exists, right? Imagine being that young man, and then the pressure just continues to build because now everybody's pointing at you is not that you're the hero or the savior, that you're the reason we're not winning. Man, I can't imagine. I mean, my son's a quarterback, right? He doesn't have to deal with that kind of pressure yet, or maybe ever. But that's a lot of freaking pressure for one human being. And how does that manifest itself is different with every person. And I think sometimes with Carson, that manifests itself as he's too tight because he doesn't want to make a mistake. Because I think when we see Cool Hand Luke, when we see Carson, breezy Carson, where he's relaxed and playing free, I think he's elite. But I think sometimes he lets that pressure get to him. And I can't blame him because I don't know how I would handle that pressure. Never in my entire life have I ever had that kind of pressure on my shoulders. And I think that's something that people don't pay attention to. Is just take 2 seconds and think about the amount of pressure on that kid's shoulders.
Yeah, it's a lot, especially for a kid that's 21, probably 22. I mean, you have to assume that. So, yeah, I mean, but that's just, Kirby always says pressure's a privilege. I mean, he's not necessarily wrong, but it is a ton of pressure. You can't deny it either. You know what I mean?
No, I mean, like Jeff. So with Jeff's comment right there, like I don't disagree with you, Jeff. I'm just saying that pressure does manifest itself in different ways, and I think with him, it results in him being tight. So I hope you understood my point. I'm not trying to make an excuse, but it is. You know what, Jeff? You might be right. Maybe he's not. I'm not arguing with you.
You never know. I mean, you never know. You can always learn. I mean, how many times we've seen kids struggle slightly, and then they go to the league and get shit fixed. Like, it happens. I mean,
Anthony Richardson wasn't that great.
Yeah, well, he started off against Georgia. That's why 2021 Georgia. That's why. But I digress on that one. Just gonna leave that there. So let's transition over to this. I think this is a good transition. Mike asked us who is our X factor on defense, which I guess is a good transition into X factors, right? Impact players, if you will. We'll give an offensive and a defensive impact player for the game. It can be Texas, it can be Georgia, or if it's up to you, if you want to eat both, you can. Dan, do you want to start or do you want me to start?
Sure, I'll do my defensive player, and this is a name. I think it's imperative that we see the best version of him, and I don't know if we will or not because, and it's not a fault of his own, but it's Mykel Williams. He's battling. You have to give him a lot of credit. He's trying very hard to play and be productive. But to beat Texas, he has to be the best version of Mykel Williams, and I pray that we get to see that version of him because he's so dynamic. If he's able to play it at 100% and he's able to move on that ankle at 100% and he's able to disrupt the game, I think that's a massive advantage for Georgia that we haven't seen all year long because he hasn't been healthy since the first half of the Clemson game. So, to me, I just think a healthy, disruptive Mykel Williams is the most important thing for our defense. What do you got for defense?
I think if I'm sticking there, I'm going to stay on the defensive line, but I'm going to kind of move inside, and I'm going to go Christian Miller. Texas's offensive tackles, especially the left tackle, that's a bona fide dude. That's a bona fide dude. Not saying you can't try to attack him or anything. I'm just saying he is good. But I think what you need to do, and Christian Miller has been playing lights out, in my opinion. And when it comes to that, right, you look at the run game and creating havoc, right? His twitch off the ball, his hand fighting is some of the best on our roster right now in regards to trying to get past defenders. When you look at it, this game, you're going to have to get to Quinn. He will cook you if you don't. We've had issues all year on generating sacks and things like that. This is a game where you have to get Quinn on the ground and get him uncomfortable. So Schumann's got to dial something up, regardless of what you do, because if you can blitz them and get him uncomfortable and force bad throws, that's going to help your secondary out more than it will anybody else. So I'm looking at Christian Miller. Like I said, he's played some lights out football this season. I thought he played really, really well. Honorable mention for me was Tyrion Ingram-Dawkins, but I thought Christian Miller deserved the shout out this week. Period.
So offense, I know it's not one position, one person, but it's a position. It's the offensive line. Offensive line needs to have their best week, 100%. They need to be able to pass protect, and we need able to run block because, in my opinion, we haven't been able to do both in any game so far this year. Like it to me, it just doesn't feel like coming into the season. I felt like the offensive line was a massive strength for University of Georgia, and to this point, in my opinion, and I'm not an offensive line coach, I feel like it hasn't been as good as it should be. Right? I think that's fair. I think it's imperative that this offensive line has their absolute best game. I think if we, on Sunday morning or Saturday night, however you want to phrase it, if we're talking about this game and we're talking positively for Georgia, I think a large part of that would be because the offensive line played extremely well.
I think you got to generate some movement and create some running holes. That's something that we've got to get more established with, in my opinion. If you can keep that offense off the field, that will by default be your best friend. I would love to see our offense sustain long drives, and if you can execute properly, right? If you can do that, sustain long drives and score, you're cutting down their right, like you're cutting them their time of possession down by default. You see what I'm saying? But a part of sustaining those drives is the fact that you've got to sustain drives, and it starts at a run game. So that's where I think that would come into play. But my X factor, I think, is going to be Anthony Evans.
You love you some Anthony Evans.
I'm doing it for Keon. Listen, he coming back home. There's several Texas kids coming back home. Hell, if you really want to be honest, you've got Cash Jones, you got Anthony Evans, you got Dylan Bell, all coming back home to Texas. So I would love to see those guys pop off, honestly. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I just think that from what we saw against Mississippi State, to me, I want to see a more expanded role for Anthony. And I'm sitting here looking at Arian Smith, and I'm liking what I'm seeing in a sense because, I mean, he's on pace to break 1,000 yards potentially. But at the same time, I mean, there's people who are still harping on the drop issues, and it's not as many as you would think, but it's just the timing of those drops, the significance of those drops, which makes it worse.
Did you see Carson Beck leads the nation in lost yardage from drops?
I would not be surprised. So
let me answer this question real quick. It says, do you think the media is hyping up Texas to be the top team over everybody because they don't want Georgia to continue to reign in dominance over everybody? Trinity, that's a great question. And I tend to agree with you because they didn't do this for Alabama. They loved it when Alabama was on top. And if you're old enough to remember the early 2000s, they did the same thing for USC. Like, you would have thought that USC reign was like 10 years long, but it was really only like 2 or 3 years. But my God, did they just absolutely love on some USC, and they have been loving on Alabama since 2007. So I don't know why there is or seems to be a bias against Georgia in the national media. Maybe it's hell, I don't know the answer. I really don't. Nick Saban didn't do anything to endear the public. He was surly to everyone, but Alabama is the media darling. They love them. So Texas is doing this without the 2 best running backs. Well, the ones that they have been playing are really, really good too. But yeah. Trinity, I do believe there's some truth to that. I do believe that they do want Georgia to be booted from that top spot. And Texas is the team that they have wanted to be back for a very long time. So that wouldn't surprise me.
I mean, you look at Texas, and listen, Texas has earned this number 1 spot so far to this point. I'm just here to tell you. So don't get that twisted. So before I say I want to say that before I say this, it's all about brand exposure. If you can get an Alabama and be dominant, it worked out well, right? At the end of the day, that's a business, and we can say what we want. I'm just have to keep it 100% honest. Texas's brand is bigger than Georgia's. So this is feeding in perfectly for what they want. I'm not sitting here to say that, right? Like, I'm not shitting on Texas. I'm just saying, like, when it's a business like that, everybody's making money when Texas is on top. Everybody's making money when Bama's on top. Everybody's hell, you think about, like Dan said, back in USC, you legitimately, I'm over here in BFE, North Carolina, back in early 2000s. I knew Reggie Bush. I knew Matt Leinart, and I didn't even know anybody else halfway. You see what I'm saying? It's all about brand exposure. And if you got a big brand and a marketability, they love it.
Yeah, that is the thing that I've never understood is why they don't feel like Georgia's marketable. It's, I have a very, very good friend that's very good friends with Damon Evans. So I got to meet him and speak with him and hang out with him and be around Damon Evans. And I know he's not necessarily the most popular guy in Georgia anymore, but you have to give a lot of credit to Damon Evans for the turning of this program. He wanted Georgia to be not just a local brand, but a national brand. And that was really behind everything that he did while he was here at the University of Georgia, was about expanding the brand, expanding the name. And he started scheduling those trips. And I remember I had so many conversations with him about expanding the brand. And Georgia, if you look at where Georgia is now compared to where Georgia was at the beginning of the Mark Richt era, and you also have to give credit to Mark Richt, right? I mean, it's not that he walked into a terrible program at all, but Mark Richt really stabilized this program for, what was it, 14 years, I believe? Wasn't it 14 years?
I think it was 15, 01 to 2015.
Okay.
14 or 15, yeah.
So he stabilized this program, and it was a program of marked consistency. Now, yes, we didn't win any national titles. We only won, I believe, 2 SEC championships, if I'm not mistaken. But Mark Richt did a great job of stabilizing it, and then Kirby came in and elevated it, right, to a level that we've never seen at the University of Georgia, which is eerily similar to, and I know I'm outdating so many of the people paying attention. If you go back to the late 70s, early 80s Dogs, and you read the AJC, they thought that Georgia was going to go on a run where they were the most dominant team in the SEC for 10 or 15 years, and it only lasted 2 or 3.
Yeah.
But they didn't know the end was coming. I mean, because it was so dominant. But
I think nobody really, well, for the most part, you don't really see it happen that way until it's there, basically. But yeah. Got another question from Trinity here saying that everybody seems to highlight Georgia's weaknesses and not talking about the positive things we do. People forget how we were so resilient coming back from 28-0 against Bama. I think you're not wrong at all, but what it kind of preludes the first question. People look at, you could have a million things right. You could do a million things right, but that one thing that you do wrong, people grasp at it. Just the way life is. I mean, for us, we look at that as more, not necessarily moral victories, but that's definitely something that you can bring up in. You know what I mean? Like, when you look at this matchup, Georgia's been battle tested, right? I mean, we've lost one, sure, but even in that loss, like I said, we made that game would have made the best comeback in probably college football history, if not it was arguable, considering the circumstances, right? But at the same time, like, you look at Clemson, right? You look at Alabama, right? We've played Kentucky. It was rough. It looked rough. Don't get me wrong. But I think that has a factor into this game Saturday, because Georgia's been punched in the mouth before, and we saw how to respond. We know how we can respond. Texas hasn't had that luxury to get hit in the mouth yet. So what could that look like? Now, who's to say Texas might come out and might not even worry about getting foot? They might just be Floyd Mayweather and never get hit. You never know. Right? We're sitting here predicting this stuff. Don't know what it's going to look like. But at the same time, I think the fact that Georgia's been in those dogfights for 4 quarters and Texas hasn't played a 4-quarter game yet, they haven't needed to. that can matter 100%, especially with how crazy this world of college football is this year. That could easily come back and be a beneficial thing for Georgia.
Well, I'll piggyback on you. Like, why does everybody seem to highlight Georgia's weaknesses? Because that's what America does. As a whole, America takes a person, they build them up, and they put them on top of the mountain. And then the minute they get to the top of the mountain, what do? They try to bring them back down. That's just what America does, and they do it to everybody. I mean, look at Taylor Swift, right? Taylor Swift, America's darling, top of the mountain. As soon as she gets to the top of the mountain, now she's this evil person, and they're trying to bring her down. And I mean, the examples go on and on and on. Look at what they do to these college players, right? They hype them up to the combine, and then once they say, "Oh, this is the best quarterback," and then they spend the next 2 months trying to rip them down. It's just what America does. So once you understand how the machine works, you just understand it and you just ignore it. I mean, that's just what they do.
Kobe says, "Here comes some grown man football fellas." Let's see what happens with that. I want to see what he's preluding to that. It's just a prediction. He also said, "Sorry, Bill Norton, we're coming down the track right at your ass." Dude, it's crazy to think that they're starting Bill Norton. I'm not knocking it. I'm just saying it's crazy to think that that's what's going on right now.
More power to him.
Well, he's like 6'3", 335, beats by Bill. I'm just saying. If I'm not mistaken, Kobe played with him, or he was no, would not have been. I don't think he was on that team. Don't think he was.
I remember the name. I just don't even remember what
No. I know Bill Norton. No, I mean, I was just saying Kobe left in 2019, and I think Bill Norton got here after that. That's what I was saying. They didn't overlap. So, I mean, that makes sense. The average whites.
Dude, Kobe was in college in 2019. Holy fuck.
Dude, you got to understand.
I'm so old.
Oh, you did? Okay, so Kobe did. Okay.
I just felt way older. Damn it.
See, well, to be fair, I went to college in 2016, but I have an explanation for mine. I did 6 years military first. So, a little bit different. Kobe started 16 by default.
Kobe needs to hop his ass in here.
So me and Kobe were in college at the same time, just different schools. But I was also, like I said, did the service first. So it's a little bit different.
You both got your schooling paid for different ways.
Oh, absolutely. Absolutely. Let's see. Trinity also says, "We got problems like every team, but it's all fixable. We still haven't hit our stride yet." Thinks it scares every team because when you do get it all together, what team can hang with us? No,
I agree with that 100%.
No, I agree too. But the question is, we can sit here. Oh, Kobe. Okay, so Kobe was. Hold on, I'll get to your in just a second, Trinity. Kobe was in college until 2021. That's right, because you had to go to Troy to get that master's degree, sir. I forgot about that. Not mad at all about that. But no, getting back to Trinity's question, I agree with that wholeheartedly. The thing about it is we just got to see Georgia do it. And I think there's some things that are glaring, that are missing, that we have. The team leadership on field leadership, right? We're used, Georgia fans, we're used to seeing like just obvious guys.
Oh,
Nolan Smith, Javon Bullard, right? Those guys, like Roquan, all that stuff. We're used to seeing those type of guys leading, and we're not seeing that this year as obvious as it, as we were used to, and I think that's showing too. What were you about to say, Dan?
Yeah, I just totally off topic, and that's me. I'm like ODD boy, or not ODD, but you know what I mean, OCD boy. Did Jeff do over-unders this week?
He did. We're going to get to that in just a little bit. Do you want to do that now?
Let's do that now.
Let's do that now.
That's my favorite part of the show.
Oh, look at that, Jeff. You're going to make him blush over here. First things first, as you know, Dan just said it. It is time for the high toss over-unders for week 8. Obviously, the Texas game. Here they are. You have Carson Beck, 0.5 turnovers. Quinn Ewers, same situation. UGA defense, 1.5 combined sacks. Nate Frazier, 45 total rushing yards. And the tight end group for Georgia, 5.5 receptions. Dan, we're going to start with Carson Beck. Over over or under a half a turnover?
Unfortunately, I think this game is too high profile to avoid a turnover. I think there's going to be a turnover. So I'll say over, but I think it's just one. I really do. I think it's just one. And it's not a criticism of him. I just think this game is too high profile to play flawless.
I feel you. I'm gonna do the same thing, and I'm curious to see how it happens. I really am, because it is a turnover. Part of me thinks that it might not even be an interception.
A fumble.
That's the worst. That's the worst type, though. That's the worst.
What, strip sack? Yeah, that's bad.
Yeah, that's bad. I'm gonna say over, but now that I'm sitting there talking myself off the ledge, I think it will be a pick, and just see what happens. I just get this feeling that it might be early, though. It just might be early.
Well, he might be taking a shot down the field, and it might be just as good of a punt, so it might not even be a big deal. But I think
depends. I mean, yeah, I get what you're saying. Let's switch it over to Quinn Ewers. Do you think Quinn over under half a turnover?
Same thing. I think it's the same thing. I think it's too high profile of a game. I think they're going to be taking chances. I think, yeah. Well, I'm going to go over on that one as well.
If Georgia wants to win this game, you have to get him to turn the ball over, right? You have to get him to turn the ball over. He has shown that he will put the ball in bad situations if pressured the right way. Georgia has to do this, therefore I'm going to say over on the turnovers. You've got to get him out of his rhythm, and that starts by throwing interceptions. You have to do it. You have to get him on the ground. You have to get him uncomfortable, because he will sit there and he will make a bad decision from time to time. He will put that ball in places he should not do it. So you have to take advantage of that. You have to capitalize with turnovers. I'm going over. Georgia defense, 1.5 sacks.
What is it?
1.5 combined sacks for the total for Georgia defense. Over or under?
I mean, you have to think that they get 2 or 3. So I'm going to go over.
We have 11 sacks on the season.
I understand. But, like I said, my X factor is Mykel Williams. If we have a healthy Mykel Williams, I think he really affects what our defensive line can do. And I'm just going to go over. I'm just going to be wishful thinking, Dan.
I'm going to go under on this one. I think Georgia, we want to see him on the ground. We need to get him on the ground. Again, though, if you can generate pressure and make him throw the ball away, or make him throw turnovers and throw picks and stuff like that. Sometimes sacks don't always result in havoc, right? Havoc is other forms of kind of pressure, stuff like that. I'm going to go under. The statistics for me, man, I have to look at it. And they've got a really good offensive line for both run and pass pro. Again, I look at Christian Miller being on the inside. You better have a good game. Warren Brinson needs to come out and play lights out in this game. We're looking at Jordan Hall. Jordan Hall on a limited snap count. Can he be disruptive? Can he do that? Right? Kobe's saying TID with a sack, Jalen Walker with a sack also, and a sack from a corner blitz. So he's calling the over as well.
All right.
Oh, man. Nate Frazier, 45 rushing yards. I'm going to go over, and I will explain why. He is now the backup running back. You have to establish the run game in this game. You really do. Again, I think Georgia, we've shown the propensity to be explosive on offense, and you can attack that secondary. I think Texas defense is attackable, but they just haven't played anybody that can do it. Georgia should be able to do it. But at the same time, I need to see a run game open up, because that will take that offense off the field. It will force Sark to focus on defense, not as much as offense. So establishing the run game early and often and being successful, quote unquote successful, that's the key word. It starts with that. So I'm going over 45. I think you need big games from both running backs.
I think he's a good enough opportunity. So, yeah, I'll go over.
And then finally, 5.5 receptions for your Georgia tight ends.
I'll go under on that one.
I'm going to go under as well. I would love to see it because hear me out. I would love to see us go over on that one, simply because I think when it comes to Texas's linebackers, I feel like their pass rushers playing linebacker. So what do they look like in coverage? And if you can get them using the tight ends and get them going, I would love to see that. But part of me also looks at it in a sense of, I mean, outside of Lawson Lucky, it's kind of inconsistent. I'm not saying they can't go over. Kobe says over on that. But I'm looking at guys on the outside. I need Arian Smith to have a good game, take the top off, attack the secondary, right? Again, if you want to win, you've got to be aggressive and you got to be attacking. And when you take your shots, you need to be aggressive. Arian Smith could look like one, right? Like I wanted Anthony Evans. Listen, I want Anthony Evans all kinds of ways, getting that man the ball in his hands, end around or whatever, put him in space. So he can make people miss. I need that. I need it. So there are your over-unders. We'll pull the graphic back up to let everybody see that. I'll repeat them for the audio listeners. You've got Carson Beck and Quinn Ewers at 0.5 turnovers. You got Georgia defense with 1.5 combined sacks. Nate Frazier with 45 rushing yards. And the Georgia tight ends, 5.5 receptions. Those are the over-unders for the week. Brought to you by Mr. Hightoff. Let's do this. Let's do this. Let's do the keys to victory here. Georgia wins. How do they do it?
They control the ball. They control the time of possession, keep away a little bit from Texas, and play really clean football.
I'm looking at it this way. Get the crowd of it. Get the crowd out of the game as early as possible. That also means you have to execute and be aggressive, but also be efficient. You got to play clean football for 4 quarters. This game will test you to see if you can play a full 4-quarter game. If you don't do that, you will lose. This offense is too good. I think this offense is better than Alabama's, because you look at what we did, 28 points to Alabama. Texas ain't going to give up and not score points. They will score points on you. They will find a way to score points on you. So you cannot sit there and give up points like we did at Alabama. You cannot do it. I look at that right there. Get pressure and get him on the ground. Tackle the ball. First things first, on defense, I want pursuit, and I want to see pursuit and tackling. That has to get cleaned up. Discipline has to be on par. You have to do it. You can't sit there and Sark is the best at showing eye candy pre-snap and even post-snap. You have to play with so much eye discipline. It's going to be extremely hard, but Georgia, I think, is the team that could do this. They right the wrong. You have to do it if you want to win. You have to do it.
I don't disagree.
So Kobe says, hit the shots when you have them wide open. Chances have to be 7s, not 3s. Correct. Mike D says he agrees with you, Dan. Texas opponents keep the ball on average 45% of the game. Kobe also says, don't be afraid to go away from running the ball. Sorry, my mistake. Don't be afraid to stick with the run game. So he literally flipped it. So, yeah, you stick with the run game. Get it, and it will hit. It will hit. So, I think we've got the running backs to do it. But again, I'm going to preface this because you're going to have these people that don't want to hear what I'm about to say. They don't want to hear it. Watch for the screen game early to get that extension of the run game going. It will force those DBs to attack. And then if you can block and sustain blocks, you can get chunk plays. But you've got to sustain your blocks. You have to come. You've got to be physical on this. We don't have a Marcus Roseman-Jack Saint, which kind of concerns me because old buddy brought his fucking lunch pail to work every Saturday and blocked the shit out of everybody.
I would like to see Trevor Etienne get a couple swing passes too. I think getting a guy like Trevor Etienne the ball in space will pay dividends for Georgia. So I would like to see him be a little bit be creative and try to find ways to get him the ball in space.
I'm curious also. I know we haven't even brought this up, but Jared Wilson, probable, if I'm not mistaken, I expect him to play. There's an argument to be made that Drew Bobo has played his way into more playing time, whether that means rotating in with guards or what, I don't know. But
Kirby already said that's not going to happen.
I know. I'm just saying he's earned some playing time if need be. Like
if pressed into action, yes, I agree. He'll be fine.
Yeah. I think Will Jared's coming back is going to be a huge thing. I think people don't necessarily understand how big of an impact that will be. And once Tate comes back, I think probably Florida game, the offense being healthy, offensive line being healthy again, I think you'll see some fun times ahead. Let's see here. Kobe says need his man Jurasic. Yeah. To be on the bench in blocking situations. Oof, Kobe. Shots fired. Kobe says he needs you to find 5 linemen you love and play them. Yeah. I mean, it's good to rotate guys, but at the same time, again, it's the same as the receivers. You can rotate too much if you're not careful. So Jeff says get Frazier the ball in space also. Yeah. I think Nate's that good change of pace back that can provide that spark in the run game. I've seen him, not saying that ETN can't, but if you saw when Nate gets the ball, he is explosive. He will attack downfield, and that's the shit that I like to see.
Mm-hmm.
So there you go. There, I think we've covered everything in regards to the X factors or impact players. We've covered the keys to victory. I think it's only fair now that we get ready to turn it over to the DGD picks of the week. But first things first, y'all know the show is brought to you by our friends over at Alumni Hall, folks. Get yourself geared up. It's football time in Athens. We might be on the road in Austin tomorrow, but that doesn't stop you from checking out our website, dgdpodcast.com, shopping Alumni Hall there. And then when you do that, right, whether you get yourself a jersey, get yourself a shirt, Fire Pit, if you can see that, they got it all, man, and it's all licensed. Go to our website, dgdpodcast.com, shop Alumni Hall through our website. 8% goes to the Classic City Collective. Or if you are in Athens, go to their store and mention the show and get 10% off your order, but that's only in stores. So either way, you can support Georgia or you're supporting us either way. But thanks to Alumni Hall for supporting the show. It's where the dog fans shop. With that being said, we're going to read this comment from Kobe. He says, I forgot to say, Florida State sucks. Kobe, I need you on Monday because Keon's Court's about to be fun. Just going to let that be known. Anyways, it is time for the picks of the week. Dan, are you ready for this?
Let's roll.
All right, if you know what it is, it's 10 games, upsets, locks of the week. First things first. This is a low-key, sneaky game here. And also, if you're watching, make sure to let us know who you think will win these games. We'll read these out as well as we go. First game, Nebraska taking on Indiana. Did you have this on the 2024 bingo card, Dan? Seeing Nebraska and Indiana on your screen this late in the season?
No, but they're both really interesting teams, and Indiana's done a great job.
Absolutely. I think Matt Rule's doing an excellent job at Nebraska. Del Ariolo's looking good, but Indiana, surprisingly sneaky good team. With that being said, here are the results. Boom. Robert, Kobe, and the Brigade going with Indiana. Keon, Juan, and Dan, you are going with Nebraska. It's in Indiana. We'll see if that makes any difference, but it shows you how close of a game people think this will be. And that's a testament to that game being way better than what people were going to realize it before the season. Just going to let that be known. Next matchup, Notre Dame taking on Georgia Tech in Mercedes-Benz Stadium. Before we get to the results, this is going to be interesting. Haynes King is out for that game. With that being said, Keon and the Brigade are riding Georgia Tech. Everyone else with Notre Dame.
Yeah, they made that pick before they knew that their quarterback wasn't playing, but
they had an opportunity to switch it out. Well, the Brigade necessarily doesn't, but Keon did. So, no mercy. No, I think that game will be interesting in Mercedes-Benz. I think – listen, Georgia Tech's playing some good football, but I think Haynes King has been an X factor for them, and that's going to sting.
Yeah. And
I see Nebraska for Mike Dudley. He's got Georgia Tech in that one. Even without Haynes King, got Georgia Tech. Interesting. Third matchup, Miami going up to Louisville and playing the Cardinals. It's going to be interesting. It's going to be interesting. Here are the results.
Yeah, Miami puts the L in Louisville.
Yeah, it's very possible. Now, to be fair, Miami has played some sloppy football these past couple games as well. So there is that. So there is still the possibility, even with clean sweep, Miami hasn't looked all that great. They've won, but they look like they've been bailed out a couple times. If we're being 100% honest.
Better be looking even good.
Mike D did change his pick to Notre Dame. Yeah, just saying. And he's also got Miami. So there is that. Now we move to the SEC. Kentucky going to the Swamp, playing Florida. This game might surprise you because Graham Mertz out for the season after he tears his ACL at Neyland Stadium, spelled N-E or K-N-E-E Land Stadium. Yeah, no more talk about that though. Here we go. Here are the results for that. Boom. I chose Dan, me and you picked the Gators along with the Brigade. Also, Kobe did say that Kentucky wins, but Lagway looks like a future star for the Dogs. Quite interesting comment there. Not necessarily mad about it, are you? Who knows?
Where there's smoke, there's fire.
Ooh, I like it. Let's see what Mike has to say about that. But in the meantime, this is going to be interesting. Texas A&M, Mississippi State. Mississippi State coming off a 31-point performance against Georgia, even in a loss. I still think there's some confidence there. A&M, a sneaky undefeated in conference play. The only loss is to Notre Dame in week 1 or week 0. So watch out for A&M. They're playing good football. With that being said, though, it is a clean sweep. Kobe says that A&M handles business. And
I've been picking against A&M all year, so I've switched up.
Look at you.
I've lost my massive lead.
Yeah, someone in burgundy and white will win this game. Now that is a fact. That's a real good one. Mike
Kobe has been enjoying my fall from grace.
I mean, we're looking at Jaden right now, guys. Seriously, 6-year-old's holding us hostage right now for that top spot. Buddy's killing it. Anyways, Mike also going back to the Kentucky-Florida game, got Kentucky. He said never pick Florida, and then he's got A&M. I listened to that, but we'll see. DJ Lagway, inconsistent, but when he's on, he's on. So we'll see what happens there. Auburn, Missouri, in Como, might I add. And the results are clean sweep for Missouri. Oh, sorry about that. Clean sweep for Missouri. We feeling confident about that, considering that Missouri lost a couple weeks to A&M and then just handled UMass.
My boy Trajan Greco is playing for Missouri, so I'm riding with him.
We're getting live updates at halftime. 21-14 Oklahoma State over BYU right now. Interesting. Very interesting. Perks of a live show, you get live updates. This one's got a little storyline to it. This next one does. Shane Beamer heading back out to Norman, Oklahoma. Maybe a little bit of bad blood there, Dan. I don't know. I don't know if you feel that way, but there's possibility that it could. We'll see. But South Carolina going to Norman. Listen, they almost beat Bama last week. So can they continue that momentum and see, even in a loss, I think those are one of those situations where if you feel like you can play against Milroe and them, you feel like you're confident against that offense at Oklahoma because it is not good. With that being said, the results are in, and everyone picks South Carolina. The points actually flipped on this. The spread on that flip from Oklahoma being a favorite to now South Carolina flipped. So the money came in and flipped that.
Yes, it did.
Very interesting to take note if you're a bettor per se. This one's going to be interesting. This is always fun to watch. LSU going to Fayetteville and taking on the Bacon Bits of Arkansas, the Razorbacks. Let me be technically correct for the Arkansas fan or fans that may watch this. Either way, I digress. The results are in. Me and Kobe are rocking with the Pit Boss. Everyone else got LSU. The Brigade rocking with the Razorbacks as well. Even game. It's going to be a good one. I think it will be a good one. I think it'll be interesting. It'll be interesting. I'll read some comments before we get back to the next one. Kobe did say, unless Brady Cook is playing quarterback for both teams, I like Missouri. He has South Carolina. All of the Oklahoma receivers are out again. So basically the Oklahoma quarterbacks have been out all year. That is rough. I mean, we've had that happen in 2019, but it's not as bad. It's because they're just not as deep. Mike D says he's going big Arky on that game. And Kobe is stubbornly loyal to the Pit Boss, said he's all in. And Mike also said hog Tua. Jesus Christ, help us. Help us, please. Yeah, Dan's just giving him that look. I understand. That's that disappointed dad look. Oh, no. All right. We got 2 games left, and I think we already know where they're going. Third Saturday in October. Oop. Alabama, Tennessee, Neyland Stadium. This one's going to be interesting because both teams did not look that great in wins. Just going to leave that there. But here we go, and we'll talk a little bit about this, Dan. Results are in. Myself, Dan, we are rocking Alabama. Brigade is going with us here. Keon, Kobe, and Juan are rocking Tennessee. Dan, I want to ask you this. What makes you think Alabama wins in Neyland this Saturday?
Because they own Tennessee.
That is fair. That's fair. Tennessee will rebut that. Will rebut that by saying Saban owned us. But
we said the same shit, didn't we?
I know. Mike D has Bama. Listen, I think this is going to be interesting because I think Alabama has Ryan Williams, and I think Ryan Williams can take the top off of that. We're going to find out what Tennessee's defense is, if they're real or not. You know what I'm saying? But I'm telling you right now, when it comes to these kind of games, quarterback play is going to matter. And at this point in time, Nico just ain't looking comfortable. Just not looking comfortable. Mm-hmm. Give me Alabama. Give me Alabama. If it's 2022 all over again, I'm just saying I'm gonna sit here and laugh either way at this game because one of them got to lose.
Yes, he's still 17.
Yeah. Did you know? Folks, here we're going. We'll pull it up for everybody. Did you know that Ryan Williams is 17 years old? Now you know. If you don't know, now you know. Star Wars Dog, what is going on, boss man? What is going on? Oh, buddy, somebody's going to be smoking a cigar. That place is going to be rocking with cigar smoke one way or another. And finally, game of the week, Georgia Bulldogs, Texas Longhorns in Austin. We've been here talking about this all night. And now we wait for the game to be here. It's finally here. Let's see Mike Dudley said, dude's been 17 years old for like 8 months now. I mean, technically there's 12 months in a year. So, okay. Either way, nonetheless, here are the results. Jaden picks Texas. Everyone else picks Georgia. Dan, I got to do this. We've already had this happen with Alabama. It cannot happen against Texas. We cannot let a 6-year-old school us twice in one season. We just can't do it, right? We just can't do it.
I just can't pick Texas, period. So it's whatever. I mean, maybe Texas is the better team. Maybe Texas is going to win, but I just can't pick them. I'll take the loss if I have to. I can't in good faith pick Texas.
Yeah, it even surprised Jessica, really. It surprised her. She didn't even know that he picked Texas. So This will be interesting. So I have a feeling me and Jade are going to sit on the couch and watch this game tomorrow. And he might pull for the Longhorn, and I'm going to pull for my team. So we'll see what happens from it. So there's a little bit of situation there because one of us is going to have to live with this. And we'll have to go from there, though. But
he's 6. He doesn't care.
Partially you're right. You're right. But at the same time, it's very different when you have a 6-year-old be smarter than you in that regard. Just gonna say. Either way, it's all dogs here. Listen, if I sat here and told you that I was extremely confident making that pick, I'm lying to you. I think Kirby Smart, now that you've got the full-blown underdog effect, I think there's no reason for you to not come out, be aggressive, play like you got nothing to lose, and just play a complete game of football. Just do it. We'll see what happens. But I need the secondary. I need the linebackers to play the best games of their careers. I need to see effort. That's the thing. You have to match Texas's effort. Even regardless who they played, their effort is there. So, yeah, Kobe said he'll send him a vicious horns down post game. Don't make my son cry. Don't do it. Don't do it. I'll do that. Like, I'll do it. Actually, to be fair, he
send him to bed without dinner.
You advocating for no, sir. That's not what we do here. But no, in all seriousness, my son does like the horns down. It's the best photo he likes out of all the Longhorn stuff. So take it for what it's worth, folks. Listen, the recipe is pretty simple. If you want to win, pick the logo. That's what I'm getting at. So do that.
And let me just add one more thing before we wrap up is that, I think the perception is Georgia has to play out of their mind to win this football game. They don't, okay? They have a talent advantage. They have recruited at an extremely high level. They have talent at every single position. They just have to play football. They don't have to play some miraculous game to win this game. They just have to play good football. That's it. They have the talent to do it. Just don't fall behind and make stupid mistakes. You do that, you have a great chance to win. This isn't a hope Georgia can win. Georgia is beyond that. Georgia is a team that expects to win. So I'm not going to sit here and say Georgia has to play incredibly well and blah 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 blah. Like, no, just go play football. Okay,
and
we're not hoping anymore.
Kobe also says he said it once before. He'll say it again. Maybe I look like an idiot Sunday, but I got a gut feeling, fellas. Beating for Texas. Star Wars, welcome in. It's kind of a late addition to the show. Welcome in, Star Wars.
Yes, nice sir. Setup. Apologies for the tardiness, but glad to be here right when we're talking the Texas game. I'd be lying if I said I wasn't nervous, but boy, I hope we can put together 4 quarters of a game. I think that's really all that Georgia needs to be able to do. I think we have the skill. We have the ability to do so. It's just a matter of executing throughout the entire game and keeping the game in front of us. I don't want to see us have to come from behind again like we did against Alabama. Obviously, we have the guts to do that. We've proven that. But I don't want to end up in another situation where we can't quite get it done. You know what I'm saying?
I agree.
I get it. I completely get it. I completely get it. I think keep in mind, like if you just play your brand of football, you have a good chance to beat anybody on any Saturday. Just point to the fact that that's true.
I find myself asking, watching Alabama play these last couple weeks, how did we lose to them? And the simple answer is we didn't execute in the first half worth a damn. Now, offensively, we took shots, right? And Beck, as much as I said at the time, and people had said at the time that he wasn't worth whatever you might want to say. To be honest, he made throws. Passes were dropped. We started behind the 8 ball, and then we were playing catch-up. Defensively, we really were on our toes, right? But we showed a lot of grit once again. And, if that team, like we saw last week in the first half, uh, against Mississippi State, if that team shows up for the entire game, I think we're fine. Yes, Texas is talented, and yes, they have the ability to throw up some points, but so do we. And our defense has the opportunity to actually show what we're made of this week.
I agree. With that being said, do you want to do a score prediction for this game? But no, we'll wrap it up.
Ooh. What's the game total at right now?
56, unless it's changed.
Did you take it over or an under on that?
Oh yeah, easily over.
Over. Okay. Dan, what about you?
Man, I've given up on score predictions because I'm so freaking wrong every single time. I mean, like for some reason,
That's right.
for some reason in my head, I'm thinking I don't think it's a blowout either way. I really don't. I think it's going to be a good game.
Mhm.
I'm right around the 38, 30, somewhere in there.
Right.
I mean, I think it is going to be a higher scoring game. I don't see a scenario. I mean, again, I've been so freaking wrong on predictions. I mean, it might be like a 10-7 game. I don't know. But
Do you think the margin's going to be fairly close, regardless if it's in the high end or the low end? It's going to be within 7, you'd say?
Yeah, I just think it's going to be a very competitive game, right? So I say it's single digits one way or the other. I mean, it might be 9. I don't know, but I mean, I just don't feel that it's going to be a 10. Uh-oh.
Abby, come here.
There's a dog on the screen.
Uh-oh.
Dr. Evil right here. It's just not a cat.
Oh.
There's another dog on the screen.
It's the princess of the house. Oh, that's a pretty baby.
Oh, you want to see princess?
Oh, are we getting another one?
It's a fluffy girl.
Oh, did it turn into the dog show? What's going on here?
My dog's always sitting by the door. She's not here right now.
They can't
I don't
see
know where
her.
she went.
She's so pretty.
I got 38. I got 38-35. I think Georgia wins this in a close one.
Oh, look at that one.
Another one.
Welcome to
Big babies.
That's my Brendel baby here.
Turn it into a dog show.
That's right. Hey, we're
You know
all
what?
about the dogs here, right?
We are a dog show.
Girl. I can get my cat too, but we're not playing Tennessee. So.
Fair
Or
point.
not Tennessee, Kentucky. Sorry.
We got another one, but she's too big to pick up.
Yeah, no, I ain't picking her fat ass up. Jesus.
Hell, I just hoiked up a damn near 70-pound dog. Come on now.
Nah, this dog. Nah, I ain't trying to pick her up. She's squirmy. I don't like it.
She's squirmy.
Nah, the podcast listeners are going to be just bamboozled with what just happened.
Yes.
Turned into the.
If you are listening on podcast, turn your attention to YouTube.
Literally.
They put
Yeah,
on a
you gonna
good
have
show
to.
over here, and you'll be able to witness all of our adorable
It just turned into that Westminster dog show or whatever.
That's right. That's right.
My dog.
There we go. Oh, what a little princess.
Welcome to just how the things you see on the DGD podcast, folks.
That's right. That's right.
Hey, we were repping dogs all the way around.
Hey, 100%, man. It might not be a bulldog, but shit, either way.
That's right.
Hey,
But no,
by the way,
so back to Texas and Georgia. Score prediction wise, I'm kind of with Dan here. I've been quite off. I was pretty on point last year, though, to be fair. Because a lot of times I would put in my score in the title, what I thought it was going to be, and some Georgia fans might be upset with me about that. Possibly putting bad juju on it, but I would be like within 7 points on either side. This year, on the other hand, I don't know. It kind of goes along with the team itself. I have so many question marks. It depends on what we get. I know what our ability is, but whether or not we get that, I don't have full confidence in it yet. I mean, I think that's fair to say.
Extremely fair.
Well, with that being said, I do think this will be a score within 10 points of one another, and I do project it to be a little on the higher end. So if I were a betting man, I probably would take the
The over.
I think I would take the over on this one, because I think at the bare minimum we're going to have to respond to their points. So whether that means we maintain our lead or we're trying to catch up, either way, I think it just compounds into a higher scoring game. So if I had to put numbers to it, I kind of like Kobe's first one there, 37-20. I would alter that to 37, let's say 28. 37-28. Georgia ekes it out. I think so.
I mean, we'll see. But with that being said, folks, listen, it's late night, and there is a lot of football to be had tomorrow, and obviously the game at 7:30. Star Wars, where can people find you, boss man?
Hey, you can find me over at Star Wars Dog on YouTube. I'm also on Twitter and X as the Star Wars Dog. Go check me out there. I also want to put out a little announcement. Good friend of my channel, and Robert, I know you've associated with them. Row 60 tomorrow morning at 9 a.m. will be doing their call-in show on their channel, Row 60, a Georgia football podcast. Go check them out. Be sure to call in if you get up early enough, and support them, support the Dogs. Let them know how you're feeling game day morning. They are there in Texas, and going ahead and putting on their call-in show on the road. So be sure to tune into that.
Let them call a Waffle House, by God. Make it happen. Make it happen.
Sir. Yes, sir.
Dan, where can people find you and your fellow companion Harry?
So I'm on Twitter at Dan Kiley3. And then we have our show, the Top Dog Podcast. And we are also on YouTube, Top Dog Podcast. So please join us. We are live every Monday at 7:30. And appreciate you joining in. And we love jumping on this show, both of us. We love supporting this channel as well.
Go follow both of them on YouTube.
Sure. Robert, one more thing. Chances of you showing up on the 11 Deep Dogcast at 11 p.m. tomorrow night?
We shall see. Don't know. I got to see on how that goes. We'll have to talk offline.
Regardless, I'll send you the link. Hopefully he'll show up. Come tune into the show tomorrow night. Like I said, 11 or whenever the ending of Tennessee-Alabama game happens. That'll probably
that's a 3:30 game. You're looking at Georgia-Texas game.
I'm sorry, you're absolutely right. Yep. 69 that. End of the Georgia game, and we'll go live after that. So
there you go, folks. With that being said, it's Go Dogs over here. Listen, you saw it, Westminster Kennel Show here, all right? It's all dogs over here.
Sir.
Anybody want to leave us off for the night? If
Hey.
not anybody, I got you.
Yep.
Hey, by the way, y'all know who we play tomorrow, man. It's always horns down, bitch. Fuck Texas, regardless if we win or lose. Catch y'all later. Have a great night. Good